What? I think we better get started. So good morning. It's 9:02. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the RTC. We're gonna start the meeting. Can I get the roll call, please?
Commissioner Jensen?
Present.
Commissioner Keeley? Commissioner Clark?
Here.
Commissioner Montesino?
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez? Commissioner Alternate Schifrin?
Here.
Commissioner DeSerpa? Commissioner Martinez?
Present.
Commissioner Downing?
Present.
Commissioner Eads?
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. And I think Commissioner Serpa is here in the back, getting ready. So good. Do we have any considerations of AB 2449 just cause?
I'm sorry, I didn't call you Commissioner Leonor. My apologies.
So do we have any considerations of AB 249?
We have two commissioners who will be using the regular Brown Act. Commissioner Quitos Carter and Commissioner Eads. Their address was posted on the agenda.
Thank you. With that, do we have any additions or deletions?
We have posted after the agenda packet a staff report for items 7 and 21. We have handouts for items 15 and 21, and we have a replacement page for item 21, and all these have been posted to the RTC website.
Thank you for that. And now we're going to go on to oral communications. So this, any member of the public may address the commission on any item within the jurisdiction of the committee, but it's not on the agenda. Thank you.
This is Brian Peoples with Trail Now. We just want to reemphasize, we strongly oppose Commissioner Andy Schifrin's advocacy to continue to delay the rail banking, which was at the last RTC meeting. He tries to relate it to the rail study. There's no relationship to that. He continues to make false claims about rail banking timeline, and we're asking him to stop making such false statements based off of the Surface Transportation Board database. It's 4 to 17 months, average is 6 months, and we need you to stop making false statements that you have no knowledge on. More importantly, we want to remind the community that Mr. Schifrin is the last remaining RTC commissioner that was on this board when we gave up the rights of the corridor to Progressive Rail, and he was an advocate of that. He basically gave away our transportation policy corridor to this Minnesota company.
Thank you.
I have 2 minutes. So we want him to stop advocating and making false statements. And it's absolutely wrong what this commission did in 2018 and gave away our rights. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Barry Scott. I live in Rio Del Mar, and I'll be brief. I want my comments address the passenger rail concept report, and I'm just going to read from Lookout, the quote, something I said, and I just want to repeat that for you all. Aptos resident Barry Scott said, instead of condemning the rail because of the cost, local officials need to look at the $4.3 billion estimate and ask, how did we get here? And I go on to say, I'm going to agree with Manu and say this is a system that's going to be hard to afford, but the takeaway is not, let's get rid of the tracks. The answer is to continue building the trail and take a breather and look at what the hell happened. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners, and welcome to Watsonville. Those of you who came down from the north today, you saw what was going on the other side of the freeway. You saw, it's like that every day. Some days even worse. But There are solutions. You've explored many of them. There's much hope to be find a clue, find a way to ease the congestion, move things forward. In fact, that's kind of the job of the RTC, to move things forward, to get the county moving. So wintertime is a great time for planning things. I grew up on a farm, and during the winter, when we couldn't work outside, we had to fix equipment, plan things, figure out what the game plan was for that next season. This is a great time for you to figure out the game plan for the next season. Let's bring this line up to a state of good repair. Let's keep an eye on equity, especially for those with the most limited resources, and I think you know who those are. Let's get moving. Let's find some alternatives. We don't need a 100-mile-an-hour train. We don't need one that's 300 feet long. We need something to move tourists as well as our working people forward. And so I ask you to stay the course. I want to thank Mr. Schifrin for his long time service here, and he's not done yet. Neither the rest of you. There's real need in the community, real need that needs to be met, and you need to find alternative ways to meet those needs. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Members of the commission, my name is Elia Belaich, Watsonville resident. 3 points I wanted to bring up today. One, you receive perpetual input and information as to how this passenger rail proposal will then ease the difficulties of traveling north-south. But I was present at your August 7th meeting, and even under your most optimistic projections, the amount of time it takes to get from Watsonville to Santa Cruz by this train will be no better, no different than what it takes by car now. And that's you having the benefit of all the money that has been invested in your road network and your freeway system now. Keep that in mind as you approach the end of the year deadline for revisiting this. The second thing is, you have a projection of $4 billion for this, but you should be aware that included in there is a worst case scenario that actually it's closer to $6 billion with uncertainty as to what the federal government will pick up. The other day I was pondering this. Do you realize in this country that for $6 billion, you could have a 2,000 megawatt nuclear powered power plant built that could supply the power for 30% of Los Angeles Basin. And you're proposing to use that for what amounts to a toy train in the second smallest county in the state of California. I asked for you to incorporate that as a reality check as you approach the end of the year about what you want to do with this. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else here in the chambers, do we have anybody online?
We do. Jim Helmer.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. We just let the record reflect supervisor is here because when we took, I want to make sure there's an acknowledgement the supervisor's here. Thank you.
And also point of order, I don't think I was counted in the original lineup. So Kim DeSerp is also here. Thank you.
With that, anybody online?
Yes, Jim Helmer.
Good morning. 2 weeks ago, I lost a dear friend on a head-on crash on one of the twin bridges on Highway 9, just north of the high school. This was a very sad day for me, a very close friend and a mother and a grandmother, Belton resident. 6 months ago, I almost lost another dear friend on the same bridge. Let me remind you and Caltrans, this bridge is nearing 100 years old. The traveled way is 21 feet. Back in 1927, when it was built, 21 feet was fine for wagon trains and a few steam-powered vehicles, but it wasn't designed for long semi-trucks, logging trucks, transit buses, concrete trucks. Talk to any San Lorenzo Valley resident, and their knuckles turn white when they're on this bridge, either driving, riding a bicycle, or walking. It's substandard in every way. Today's standard width for a bridge of 2 lanes is 40 feet, 2 12-foot driving lanes, and 2 8-foot shoulders, in addition to sidewalks. Once again, we're at 21 feet. All day, that day of the fatality, the San Lorenzo Valley was saddened, and they still are. Every time that bridge is closed, Highway 9 detours through our neighborhoods on Glen Arbor Road. I ask that you look at the significance of this bridge to get it onto the federal bridge replacement program or rehabilitation program. It either needs to be widened or reconstructed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
David Dean?
Yes, thank you, and good morning. I am a regular bus commuter, and I was not able to attend in person today because it is a 90 to 120-minute bus ride to Watsonville from Santa Cruz, or back during peak commute times. The previous speaker who said that the times are comparable to a car is not thinking about the people who use public transportation. This is unacceptable. I would have to take all day off of work in order to come to the RTC meeting, and half of that time I would be sitting in a bus. I also wanted to draw attention to the fact that this is a week without cars. The commissioners were encouraged to try and use our county services and make their ordinary business happen without a car. I would very much like to hear candid reports from the commissioners in the future about what this experience has been like, because it's very important that you understand what it's like for those of us who do use public transportation, who do want safe routes via bicycles and safe walkways. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Brett Garrett?
Looking for the unmute. Hi, this is Brett Garrett from Santa Cruz. This community is deeply divided regarding the passenger rail proposal. It is long past time for the RTC to seriously consider personal rapid transit as the viable alternative that can heal the division by providing awesome transportation, awesome public transportation that doesn't need to use the rail corridor. I think the passenger rail project is likely a dead end because there's no way the voters are going to approve billions of dollars in sales tax for a passenger rail project that has no benefits until after 2045. Please pause or discontinue the passenger rail project. Personal rapid transit can provide better transportation than a train at a fraction of the cost. With your help, most of us can ride personal rapid transit here in Santa Cruz County within our lifetime. It can be put together much quicker than this train project is going to come together, and the benefits will be for everyone. There's plenty more information at santacruzprt.com. Please consider it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Saint? Mr. Saint?
Yes, I'm here. It's hard to find the button. Good morning, Commissioners. Michael Saint, Santa Cruz PRT, Aptos resident. 7 years ago, we were finishing the performance dashboard for the Unified Portable Investment Study. This study came up with 5 scenarios. One scenario was a no-build scenario, and the preferred scenario was overwhelmingly scenario B, which considered mostly mass transit, biking, and pedestrian projects. This scenario was ignored by the then RTC members, and Autonomous Transit Network, PRT, did not make it into any of the scenarios. My friend Brett Garrett was surprised at the elimination of PRT as a viable alternative to the train and buses. So Brett hired a PRT consultant to do an evaluation of the RTC's UCIS study. Here's the results from 2018. The UCIS completely ignores PRT, even though it has been operated in the public since 1975. PRTs have completed over 200 million injury-free passenger miles as of 7 years ago, and that's increased dramatically. The PRT system was found to be far superior to the combination of train and bus rapid transit connections. Overall, the PRT system will be a far superior solution that is worthy of further consideration. Number 5, there appears to be no credible argument to exclude PRT from consideration. This study was 7 years ago. PRT technology has advanced to a much higher level, and there are projects being developed over the hill. Please put the ZEPERT to rest and consider other alternatives, PRT being the most developed presently. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
There are no more speakers online.
Okay, so I'll bring it back because someone else wants to be in the chambers. Go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. Can you hear me? No. Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you so much for your time. It would be disappointing if, because this commission and staff is unable to complete the project of passenger rail today, that it would even consider destroying the future of passenger rail. When members of the groups Greenway and Trail Now attempted to destroy our valuable rail infrastructure by convincing the then executive director of the RTC to attempt adverse abandonment in January of 2022, and then ran a ballot measure in June of 2022, the answer from the public was a resounding no. Both times. Our very own Fred Keeley, along with Rod Diradon and Carl Guardino from the California Transportation Commission, spoke very bluntly to our community that destroying our tracks would mean no passenger rail ever. Some members on the dais and in the public are pushing to rail bank and destroy our valuable rail infrastructure because they know it means no rail ever. They also know that there may be indeed financial benefits that landowners adjacent to the tracks are able to cash in on. Robust, equitable transit is critical for a large percentage of our community members. Grants are always competitive. Stewardship and honoring the vote of our entire county in every district, clearly, with a clear no on Measure D, indicates that our community's desire to maintain the tracks is your vote to move forward with rail. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll close that up on public comment, and we'll move ahead with a consent agenda. Any of the commissioners have any questions on consent agenda? Seeing none, I'm going to go out to the public on the consent agenda.
Thank you, Brian. Trail Now, I believe item number 15 is on the consent agenda.
Yes.
Okay, that's a letter from Capitola. Mayor Keeley, that's really a message from Capitola to this community that they want help. And I'm calling you out on this because you've already experienced the public calling for help. Businesses failed because of the city council's failure to do what was asked of them by Guy Preston, which we also came to you and met with you and asked you, let's move forward with the trail. in an appropriate way, the rail banking process. So Capitola's doing the same thing right now. They're asking, why are you stopping the Capitola trestle from being repurposed? Can't be used for a train today, can't be used for a train ever. There's already been a design, $7 million. Sarah actually put that design together. But this commission continues to fail our community by moving forward. And I'm calling you out, Mr. Cayley, on this because your experience already, business is failing in Seabright and Harbor just because of the transportation policies of this group and your committee, your council. So let's stand up. Let's listen to what Capitola is asking you. Help support them. Help support Watsonville. We need this. Do we have to keep arguing over it? The facts have been presented. We need to open the Capitola trestle as a valuable transportation corridor. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one else, anybody online on the consent?
We have no speakers online.
All right, I'll bring it back to the commission for action.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Keeley? Commissioner Montesino?
Yes.
Commissioner Hernandez? He's not here. Commissioner Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commissioner Koenig?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Downing?
Aye.
Commissioner Leonor?
Yes.
And that passes unanimously.
Commissioner Clark in there somewhere?
Commissioner Clark?
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. So that motion passes. So now we're going to move on to commissioners' report. Any commissioners have a report? Commissioner? Oh, but now it's commissioners' report. Any commissioners have a report? Commissioner Downing?
So I just want to thank all the commissioners that rode the bus this week. And we had a lot of fun. We learned a lot. And I just appreciate the time that you took to do that. Some of you actually just used the bus anyway. So thank you for joining us. And I wanted to thank both the county and the RTC and Santa Cruz Metro staff for putting on the countywide event at the Capitola Mall on Tuesday. It was great. The words that you all shared were just really heartfelt. We really appreciate the support for pedestrians and cyclists in Santa Cruz County. So today is actually the midday of the week without driving. So you still have time to participate. And if you do, let me know so that we can talk to you afterwards about your experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, anybody, Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, just real quickly, more of an announcement than anything. Just wanted to let you all know that we did select a new council member for the Scotts Valley City Council last night. So happy to announce that Mr. Greg Wimp is our new council member. If you know Greg, he owns a number of Togo's restaurants, including one here in Watsonville. So make sure you go hit him up for a sandwich. And then also, too, just as a matter of record, Donna Lind is now our vice mayor, replacing Alan Timms' position in that role. She'll serve in that role till the end of the year, and then will likely be voted mayor. So that's all I got.
Thank you for that report. Anybody else? See none? Anybody, commissioners online? No? So we'll move on to item 18 of Coastal Rail Coordinating Council appointment. This is my item. Give me 1 second. So, Commissioners, the Coastal Rail Coordinating Council is a coalition of transportation agencies and stakeholders along California Central Coast working cooperatively to advance rail service between the Bay Area and Southern California. Active transportation in the CRCC ensures that the Santa Cruz County has a voice in shaping future rail investments and policies that could directly impact mobility and economic opportunity in our area. I'd like to recommend the appointment of Commissioner Kim DeSerpa as the SCC RTC representative to the Coastal Rail Coordinating Council. She has demonstrated her dedication to the CRCC through attendance to the past meetings in San Jose and Los Angeles as an alternate to the CRCC. And Rich, we are appreciative. Thank you for your time and commitment. I recommend also Jerry Jensen to serve as her alternate due to his interest in intercity rail that supports our region. And respectfully ask the support for confirming these appointments. Any questions? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, you should just entertain a motion and a second on those appointments.
I move the appointments as recommended.
Second.
So it's been moved and second. Can I get a roll call?
I'm sorry, I just joined. Can you repeat the motion, please?
It's to approve the recommendations that the chair made for the appointment of the member of the coordinating council and the alternate.
Thank you for clarifying.
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Keeley? Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Montesino?
Yes.
Commission Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commissioner Koenig?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Downing?
Aye.
Commissioner Quitos Carter?
Aye.
Commissioner Leonor?
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
Thank you, everyone. I just, if I could make a remark.
Of course.
It has been a true honor to serve in this capacity already. I'm learning very much about transportation across the state. It has been truly very interesting to go down and see what is happening in San Bernardino with their hydrogen-based train. So I thank you for the opportunity. Having grown up in Monterey County and worked in both counties, I have very close connections across the region, and so I just appreciate the opportunity to serve. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we're going to go on to 19, Director's Report.
Thank you, Chair Montesino. I have a short Director's Report. We've got a PowerPoint coming up. I'll wait. Next slide, please. Okay, as Commissioner Downing mentioned, it is a week without driving, which is a national campaign that invites people to use alternative transportation for their daily transportation needs. The campaign kicked off in Santa Cruz County on Tuesday, September 30th with a community celebration at the Capitola Mall hosted by the County of Santa Cruz Community Development and Infrastructure Department, Santa Cruz County Community Traffic Safety Coalition, and Santa Cruz Metro. It included informational booths. You could see photos up on the screen of all the public officials who attended and the booths. We shared a few words, and it was a great celebration. I was one of the speakers and discussed many programs and projects that RTC is working on to promote the use of transit and active transportation, including our transportation demand management programs, or TDM programs, like Go Santa Cruz County platform. Interested individuals can log any eligible trip, which is bike, walk, transit, or carpool, van pool, during the challenge period for a chance to win prizes from local businesses. RTC staff also hosted a webinar on our Hazard Report online platform so that community members could learn more about how to use this platform to report hazards that impede biking and walking in the community. And a video of that webinar is available on our website. Next slide. Continuing with the theme of alternative transportation, we are encouraging the community to participate in Biketober, a free, fun challenge to get you riding, connecting with your community, and taking action for climate. Along with our partners at Ecology Action, we invite all riders to join the online challenge throughout October to bike more and enjoy all the benefits that biking brings. Participants that sign up for Biketober will have the chance to enter prize drawings by riding their bike and encouraging others to ride. Visit our website or scan the QR code up on the screen for information on signing up for the Biketober Challenge for neighborhood events and resources focused on learning, moving, and connecting with bikes. Next slide. I've got a couple staff announcements. I'm pleased to announce that Italo Jimenez has joined the RTC as the new Budget and Finance Officer. Italo is a seasoned finance leader with over 25 years of experience in both the public and private sectors. He most recently served as Chief of Fiscal Services for the County of Santa Cruz, Department of Community Development and Infrastructure, where he led efforts in audits, grants, financial strategy, budgeting, and long-term fiscal planning. His deep expertise and strategic mindset will be instrumental in supporting RTC's financial integrity, operational goals, and long-term sustainability. We're excited to welcome him aboard and look forward to the contributions he'll bring to our team. Please join me in welcoming Italo.
Welcome.
Yay. I'd also like to welcome Daniel Suarez, who joined the RTC as a transportation planning intern. Daniel's here today. Thank you. Daniel brings a strong background in community-focused planning. While working with the City of South San Francisco's Planning Division, he contributed to the implementation of the city's Transportation Demand Management Plan and supported the El Camino Real Mobility Project. He also gained valuable private sector experience from a firm specializing in land acquisition and relocation services for projects throughout California. Daniel is currently pursuing his master's degree in urban planning at San Jose State University, go Spartans, with a focus in transportation. In his role at the RTC, he will support the planning team on a range of planning efforts, including the Cruz 511, Go Santa Cruz County programs, the Regional Transportation Plan, grant applications, community outreach, and other long-range planning needs. Welcome, Daniel. I'd also like to congratulate RTC Transportation Planner Max Friedman, who was recently promoted from Planner 1 to Planner 2. Max started with the RTC in March 2024 after graduating from the Urban and Regional Planning Program at San Jose State University. In the past 18 months or so, Max has made a huge difference with his efforts. He completed the Caltrans Transportation Planning Academy. He's taken on a variety of planning tasks, most notably leading the RTC's legislative program. He also helps out with the North Coast TDM planning effort and helps with grant applications. Please join me in congratulating Max.
Yeah,
Hear, hear.
Congratulations.
Okay, and lastly, I would like to just give an update about the location of our meetings for the rest of the year. Due to renovations taking place at the County Board of Supervisors chambers, we have less options to choose from, which means the remainder of the RTC monthly meetings for 2025 will be held here in Watsonville. And that concludes my director's report. I'm here for questions if you have any. Thank you.
Questions for commissioners? Seeing none, bring it to public.
Yes, Brian Peoples, Trail Now. Really here to support Sarah, I wanted to point out, and I didn't realize how unsupportive this commission is to Sarah until I read the actual text from the last September meeting on what Sarah said to you all. And you didn't listen, especially you, Andy. You didn't listen. You're not listening to Sarah and her plea.
Can you please distract
Her plea. This is about the director report.
Yeah, but
I got
those
it.
comments.
She, if you read the language, and it's the letter that we sent in to Mr. Schifrin about the language that Sarah asking for you to listen to her. Sarah, you're doing a great job. You know, I think of Rob Quinn and what he believed in you. And I'm asking you to be more upfront to this group because they don't get it. They don't get it, and do what Rob wants you to do. Thank you.
Thank you. See no one else? Anybody online?
We do not have any speakers online.
Thank you for that report. So now we're going to go on to item 20, Caltrans report.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. Scott Eads, District 5 Director, reporting from San Luis Obispo. I have a few items for you. The first is I just wanted to announce that we have, Caltrans has announced the 26-27 Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant program. Applications are, it's open for applications. They're actually due on September 21st by close of business. The program has 3 competitive categories and subcategories. There's roughly $17.5 million that's available through the Sustainable Communities Planning Program, or a sub-program of the overall grant program. $1.5 million available for strategic partnership planning, and $3 million for strategic partnerships in transit with Caltrans. We in the district hosted an application workshop yesterday that was well noticed, and then at the statewide level, Caltrans hosted a workshop on September 24th, will again on September 8th, and then there's another one that's tentatively planned for October 15th. So again, the applications are due on November 21st, and you can just Google Caltrans Sustainable Transportation Planning Grants. It'll take you to our website. There's much more information there. Also want to just highlight some projects that are underway out there. Discussed this one last time as well. We have a drainage repair and retaining wall replacement emergency project. So it's emergency work. It wasn't planned, and we've had some challenges in terms of getting the signal to really function in a way that's not as disruptive to travelers through that area. So we're continuing to work. This is between Prospect and Lorenzo, just south of Boulder Creek. We do anticipate completing construction this December, so it is fairly temporary in nature, but we're certainly aware that the temporary signal that we deployed has created some disruption. The original signal was programmed with fixed signal timing and included extra time for cyclists. So we always want to incorporate the ability for cyclists to travel through with temporary signals. In this case, we recognize that resulted in added delays. So we since have included a traffic sensor, and we reprogrammed with ranges that really are more focused towards real-time conditions. And we're also now adding a push button so that cyclists can press a button and receive additional green time to travel through. So we're continuing to monitor the situation. We have folks out there that can step in if there's some problems. So thank you for your patience as we get that emergency project completed. The other one I want to touch on is a drainage and erosion control project, again on Highway 9. It's at 17 spot locations between Ben Lomond and a few miles shy of the 935 intersection. So there will be reversing traffic control, again with a temporary signal, but they will not be, the 2 signals will not be operating at the same time. So we anticipate completing the emergency project and then looking towards the temp signal in spring of 2026. So more information to come, but that project is beginning as well. And then also just wanted to highlight that Supervisor Martinez has requested or asked that Caltrans participate in an upcoming town hall in mid-November. We look forward to participating, answering questions about projects. There's a lot going on Highway 9, and we're happy to participate in that opportunity to meet with the public. And then closer to Watsonville, we have a project on Highway 1 that is drainage, lighting, and crash severity. That project is underway, so just watch for news releases on that, and just recognize there continues to be some lane closures and ramp closures in that area. And just last thing I wanted to highlight is we appreciate RTC staff posting additional information on the Cruz 511 website. They've been posting our news releases and some other information out there that you can find at the Cruz 511 website. So we appreciate that extra information that's out there for the public. We do send out things on our social media sites, but having it there as well is helpful and appreciated. So thank you. That concludes my report. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you for that report. Any commissioners have any questions? Commissioner Jensen.
I was wondering if you had any update on the Bay Porter off-ramp closure dates?
I do not, but I will follow up. Actually, it may be that Sarah or Amin have some details on that because they may be closer to the work on that.
Thank you, Director, Commissioners. The Bay Porter Avenue ramps have a little design issue that we're working through, and our designer is working diligently with the Caltrans team to figure out best options to try and get through this design issue that we're taking. Basically, there were a couple of things that were not identified on the design plans that is causing us to pause and rethink the best option for design or redesign of the intersection. That's why we didn't close it, because otherwise it'll be closed without a reason. So we will keep you updated on that. We are almost done with the identification of the issue.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Commissioner Koenig.
Thank you. One question actually for our executive director, but Mr. Eads mentioned the Caltrans Sustainable Planning Grant. I'm just curious if we are preparing any applications for that. I know in the past, in particular, we discussed doing something around bus on shoulder, and it was clear that needed more study. Certainly was clear that that would be valuable coming down here this morning and seeing that the traffic is backed up well past Freedom. And so if the bus had the opportunity to use the shoulder, I mentioned this because I think that was the section in particular that we had to look at. There was a shop project through Caltrans. We almost got a project in from Freedom south to Buena Vista. It became evident we need more study. I think it'd be really valuable to look at bus on shoulder there, and I'm just curious if we're preparing an application.
Thank you, Commissioner Koenig. Yeah, you nailed it. We are definitely pursuing planning grants this round. We pursue almost every round, and we've been pretty successful. We're still finalizing kind of our list of pursuits, but we have been in close coordination with the California Transportation Commission staff who, if you recall, the Unified Corridor Investment Study that was completed back in 2019, they would like regions across the state to kind of revamp or refresh their comprehensive multimodal corridor plans every 5 years, especially given that we had a global pandemic that happened that changed travel patterns quite a bit. So RTC, we were one of the first in the state to have our comprehensive multimodal corridor plan accepted by the California Transportation Commission back in 2019. That is a very crucial study for us to have completed and done because it makes us eligible for very large sums of competitive grants that we've been very successful in receiving, which is the Solutions for Congested Corridors program, which we were awarded back in June, $128.7 million for. So we are planning to submit an application for basically to update our comprehensive multimodal corridor plan, and that, if you recall, looked at more holistically cross-county travel along a unified corridor, which was Soquel Drive / Freedom Boulevard, Highway 1, and Santa Cruz Branch Rail Line. So that is a big undertaking for us, for our agency. There will be a significant amount of outreach given we're successful in getting the grant. And that very well could include bus on shoulder extensions. It could include a lot of other things that we're not sure about right now. But the other planning grants that we're considering, if you recall, I believe it was last month, August, the commission approved moving forward with a planning study for resiliency of the branch line. And we're looking at potentially adding additional locations because that planning study looked at 4 locations, but there are a few others that remain as a need for us to consider studying the resiliency of. So those are the 2 that we're aware of at this time. So let me know if you have any more questions.
That's great. Thank you.
With that, Commissioner Martinez.
Thank you for the report. And I also want to thank Caltrans for joining me for a State of the Roads Town Hall for the public. That's going to be on November 13th at 6 p.m. And it's really a focus on the District 5, Santa Cruz County, San Lorenzo Valley, Highway 9, which we heard a caller today with some concerns about that area. And so encourage anybody who has questions or thoughts about the state of the roads in the North County region to join us on November 13th. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to go out to the public. Anybody from the
Mr.
public?
Chairman, after you finish with the public, I should have raised my hand earlier.
Would like the public, seeing no one here in the chambers, do we have anybody online?
We do. Michael Saint? Mr. Saint?
Okay, thank you. Michael Saint, Aptos resident. Just wanted to thank Commissioner Koenig for bringing up the bus on shoulder possibility. Just to clarify for the commissioners as well as anybody in the public, we presently do not have a bus on shoulder project going. We use the term bus on shoulder a lot, but basically it's a hybrid bus on shoulder, which is actually involved with cars. I believe Commissioner Koenig was talking specifically about a dedicated bus on shoulder, and that's totally different. CFST as well as Santa Cruz PRT definitely promote a dedicated bus on shoulder project. We hope as someday the RTC will maybe wake up and realize we need to get people back and forth Wattsville to Santa Cruz. A real bus on shoulder would definitely help. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have no other speakers.
We'll bring it back to Commissioner Keating.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry on the uptake there, a little slower. A couple of items. Madam Executive Director, would you be kind enough, I was on this body when the earth was cooling, and now that it's cooled, I'm back on the commission. So there's a couple items I wonder if you and I could meet on between now and the next meeting. I wonder if I could get I don't need to chew up the entire commission time. We'll get a little briefing on PRT, if you'd be kind enough to do that. And then, Mr. Chairman, I am willing to volunteer if at any point in this relative to the ED's report or any other actions we take today, I'd be pleased to be involved in helping coordinate a meeting with Carl Gardina from the CTC to talk through the various issues that have arisen over the last couple of months and are going to continue to vex us, I suspect, over the next couple of months. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for that offer, and we will take you up on it. With that, we're going to move on to item of interest, item 21, the Coastal Rail Trail segment 8 and 9, and 10 and 11 project delivery. Staff report.
Chair Montecito, I'll be recusing myself due to a conflict of interest.
Thank you, Commissioner Downey. Duly noted.
Grace, can you give us just 1 minute? We're trying to get up the updated.
Go ahead. Okay. Good morning, Commissioners. I think this is the fastest agenda we've had in a long time, so I'm glad to be before you right before 10 o'clock. Because I have the floor, I just also wanted to add, related to the planning grants, and because we're in the city of Watsonville, we'll also be pursuing a planning grant related to circulation in Watsonville that's in support of a prior grant they weren't awarded, and the reconnecting communities. So we're also focusing on planning for future projects here in the city of Watsonville as well.
Thank you.
But for my item, item 21, thank you for taking time this morning to receive this update on Coastal Rail Trail projects 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 between the city of Santa Cruz and then the Aptos in the unincorporated area of the county. Next slide, please. You and members of the public probably recognize this slide. I show it just about every presentation when we talk about the Coastal Rail Trail. And it's updated, we keep it updated as partner agencies make progress on developing this continuous 32-mile multi-use path between Davenport and Pajaro. As Sarah Director Christensen has mentioned, we've been very successful in obtaining state and federal funds for this project, and really it's due to our local Measure D self-help sales tax that allows us to leverage these funds. This is a transformative project, which is one of the reasons I like to show this slide, because it extends the entire length of our county, and it requires significant investment and prioritization, not just from our agency, but also by state and federal agencies. As you can see, this slide is really meant to show that different stages of the rail trail are in different places of development. So that's what we use the different colors to depict. And really, something I was reminded of as I was preparing this presentation last night, as we focused on all the different challenges in developing this project, is that it wouldn't be possible without the Commission's initiative to purchase the Santa Cruz Branch Rail Line in 2012. So this is an incredible asset for our community. This is, as Sarah was talking about, with related to our corridor planning effort. This is one of our few corridors that extends the entire length of our county, and that's why it's important for us to look at all of the 3 corridors we have together. There are many key decision points in developing the Coastal Rail Trail and that inform the future of this project. This fall, the RTC is again faced with a decision regarding next steps for this project, particularly related to addressing cost and funding challenges. This project is complex for a number of reasons, not to mention it's located within an operating railroad, but also because it traverses all of the several of the local jurisdictions within our county and a number of environmentally sensitive areas. As you can see on this slide, one of the reasons you can see that the project is developed into separated into different segments, and that is to support project delivery. And I just wanted to point that out today because we're focused on segments 8 and 9 and 10 and 11. And the reason that we look at these in segments is because it helps us to try to facilitate delivery of these important projects. Today, our presentation will be focused on what's shown kind of more in the middle of this map, which is segments 8, 9, and 10, and 11. Next slide, please. So the top portion of this image shows what we refer to as segments 8 and 9, which extend from the city of Santa Cruz near the wharf, the intersection of Pacific Avenue and Beach Street, out to 17th Avenue in the unincorporated area of the county near Simpkins Swim Center. And then the bottom 2 images show what is covered in segments 10 and 11, which extend east or southeast from 17th Avenue all the way to Aptos at State Park. Next slide, please. This slide offers a very high-level project schedule. The project schedules for the 2 kind of projects. So when I talk about projects, I'm kind of grouping them into 8 and 9 and 10 and 11 because that's how they've been funded. But they're generally tracking with one another, and I just wanted to point out kind of what's been happening so far. So we really initiated the project approval and environmental document phase in 2020. We are now working on the design portion of the project, and then in 2027, we're scheduled to begin construction. One of the reasons I wanted to show this slide is we often get questions about how long is it going to take to construct the project? And yes, we're expecting a two to 3 year period, maybe 4 year period, depending. But really, a lot of the work and that time and effort that takes to develop these projects is on the front end. And you can see that by the time it takes to proceed through environmental review and completing the environmental document and completing design. So as we've been talking about with you recently, some of the construction allocation deadlines, there's a lot of work that we have to do to be able to get to that time frame. Next slide, please. So I wanted to show this slide because we've been, at our last meeting in September, we were directed as staff to work with our project sponsors to look at cost reduction strategies, as well as, which could include scope changes. And I wanted to bring to your attention, as well as to the public, that we have been working on cost reduction strategies for some time, and also looking at project delivery strategies. So most recently, I guess in 2024, we brought to the Commission some cost estimates that exceeded the available funding, specifically to 10 and 11, but it also applied to segments 8 and 9 in terms of the cost of escalation and unit cost increases and updated design elements. At that time, we were directed to conduct a value engineering analysis, as well as to pursue a memorandum of understanding with Roaring Camp to reduce potential costs associated with track relocation. We've completed both of those steps since that time. And then also we were directed to seek additional funding, and we did obtain a federal raise grant for an amount of $19.5 million since that time, and we continue to request earmarks when they're solicited by our local legislators. In September 2025, just last month when I was before you in this location, we were directed to look at other cost reduction strategies that could include scope changes and continue to seek additional funding. Within that time period, the City of Santa Cruz has applied for an additional federal grant, Safe Streets for All, in the amount of $20.5 million. Next slide, please. So one of the purposes of today's meeting was to talk to you about how we're looking and evaluating some of the project delivery risks that we see before this project. We have talked about a number of areas, and one of them is additional new funding. Yes, we are consistently looking for additional new funding. Under every rock, you can be sure that your staff and our project sponsors are working together to try to find funding for this project. And luckily, it's a very appealing project and has incredible benefits, so we have been competitive. But the number of options for new funding are limited, particularly in the time frame that we're talking about, and try to aligning any new funding with existing grant deadlines. So it's clear to us, and we've communicated this to you at your last meeting and as part of our report today, that this project, the Coastal Rail Trail projects 8 through 11, do need additional funding for final design. So that's a near-term need. And they also need funding for construction, which is, it's not really a long-term need because we're talking about 2027, but it's not next year. We do need some assurances, though, that we'll have a funding plan to be able to deliver these projects. Another key important piece to note is that existing grants don't provide funding for cost increases. So it's very different for me to be before you and knowing the agreements that the city and the county have with the California Transportation Commission for the Active Transportation Program funds, as well as the awarded federal funds through the RAISE program. They don't allow for cost increases. I'd like to wish I was Caltrans to before you asking for additional funding. I couldn't help but add that in there as I wrote my report this morning, but that's the agreement we have with our state and federal funding partners. So also the new state and federal funding is scarce and it's hard to obtain. The Active Transportation Program cycle that where segments 8 and 11 were awarded was significantly greater than what we see coming forward through that program in the future. So funding is scarce. And then, as I mentioned, challenge aligning any new funding that we might obtain with existing grant deadlines. Next slide, please. I touched on this a little bit, but another delivery risk is our schedule. I know we've been bringing this information to you. At the state level, they refer to it as use it or lose it deadlines. That's something that we and all of your local project sponsors deal with when they receive state funding, is that they are very strict on setting deadlines for using your funding. And I think it's something that, as you as commissioners, when you award discretionary funding, you're also looking at when are the funds going to be used by these projects. So it's very strict. There are options for extensions, but they are subject to approval by funding agencies. So it's not something that we can just request and assume is going to occur. It will be scrutinized just like our agency would scrutinize any changes to funding requests by local project sponsors. And then what we've really seen in the work that the project sponsors from the city and the county have done in their current analysis is that escalation is really a huge factor in what we're dealing with in our project cost increases. So any delays we anticipate will continue to increase project costs. Next slide, please. So in the bulk of the report that was in the packet was looking at project phasing options. These aren't the only options that are possible, but were the work of looking at what would be a logical termini, what are the project benefits that we're providing to the community, what's the importance of a continuous facility through our county, what are risks to our previously awarded funds potentially, and the viability of funding which would be subsequent or future phases if we were to shorten the length of the project. Next slide, please. And then I think it's important also to talk about the assumptions, because we are working with a lot of assumptions right now. We haven't made a formal request for a change in scope, so it's us kind of using the information at your staff and partnership with our other project sponsors, using the information we have and working with our directors to make some assumptions about what might happen. So we're assuming under these scenarios that the granting agency would actually approve a scope change, which is not guaranteed. We also are assuming that the scope change must occur within the approved project area, which we've seen that in the past with other projects. I haven't seen a complete shift in where the funds go within your county, and that we're assuming a proportional reduction in funding, and we're looking at through trail miles versus dollars awarded. Next slide, please. So this slide, the next few slides are really intended to kind of orient you to how we might address a scope change proposal to our funding agencies. So this is the current project that you can see. Segment 8 and 9 are shown in blue, and 10 and 11 are shown in green. And it extends approximately 6.5 miles from the city of Santa Cruz to State Park. Next slide, please. So we called these different options. So option A is kind of the least amount of reduction in mileage that we looked at, where we could still provide project benefits and try to work within some of the funding we have. This would extend the project from the city of Santa Cruz out to 47th Avenue. And as noted in the staff report, this option still is not feasible within the estimated Measure D available revenues through the life of the measure. So we really tried to figure out, okay, how can we maintain the most miles possible, the most benefit, and limit the amount of grant funding reduced. But even under this scenario, when we looked at our financial scenarios, we weren't able to pencil it out with what we anticipate for future Measure D active transportation revenues over the life of the measure. Next slide. So here you can see it further reduces the length of the trail and tries to continue to focus the investment in some of the most populated areas of our county, so to continue to provide those project benefits. Although this scenario reduces the total project cost when considering the proportional reduction in grant funding, we still are right up against that constrained amount of funding available, revenues, constrained amount of revenues that we expect to be available over the life of Measure D when you consider not only the funding gap for the project, but also the financing needs over the period of the measure. And I guess I didn't point it out with the last slide, which I should have, is in all of these situations, you're assuming that future phases of the project would still need to be funded, and that we would no longer have an identified funding source for those phases. So I did note that in the report, kind of a general cost estimate for future phases and what a local match might be required. We really assume a 20% match to the project cost, but the higher the match you have, the more competitive you are. We've seen that with a number of programs. Some programs don't require a match, but most of them do, so we utilize a 20% as our assumed minimum match for these projects. So one of the other things we talked about was some of the granting agencies, if they were to consider a scope change like that, would also require the project sponsors to commit to programming future funding. And that's a challenge for us if we're looking at a scenario under which Measure D is fully expended over its life. Next slide. And then here was the option C, and this was one that when we took a look at it through the Measure D financial analysis, we could fund with anticipated Measure D revenues. It would leave approximately $20 million in Measure D available for future phases of the project to serve as a match, or for projects to be developed in other portions of the county. However, it does build only about 1.5 miles of the initial 6.5 miles anticipated in the project. So that's kind of the different ways that we looked at these options, is the feasibility through Measure D is also maximizing the number of miles. It's important for me to mention that these are all examples and they're based on a number of assumptions. So we're not asking you today to program additional funds, but we want to give you kind of an idea of order of magnitude as what we're thinking about and how to continue to hold on to as much of that state and federal funding that we can, and also deliver the project to the community. None of the options in terms of the financial analysis that was provided in the staff report assume that the city would get the Safe Streets for All grants. So that would be additional $20 million if they are awarded that funding that could help to support these projects. And then I mentioned this when I was talking about the assumptions, but I just want to point it out. For example, this option C, segment 8 and 9, all of the funding would be focused from 8 and 9 when it was awarded to 8, 9, 10, 11. So we're making the assumption that the California Transportation Commission would allow us to shift the funds to a different project. So there's a number of assumptions, and I'm happy to, of course, answer any questions as we go through the rest of the presentation. Or next slide. There's a lot of numbers on this slide, and I want to just focus on the last row, and it's what I mentioned to you in talking about the financial feasibility of these projects. If you go to the very bottom right, that 21 million, that's what I was talking about in terms of the balance that we might anticipate should option C be the pursued, and it was the scope change was approved by the CTC and all those other assumptions made, but that's really the scenario under which we would have a program balance in Measure D going forward. And then if you look at this, the first green column, option A, you can kind of see that contrasted where we're oversubscribed. And the other important thing to note here is the assumptions regarding Measure D active transportation category expenditures assume we do continue with corridor maintenance, but it does not assume trail maintenance as funded by RTC beyond in the current 5-year plan. Next slide. So in terms of next steps, we were trying to keep you informed as these projects move forward and the costs are updated on an ongoing basis. So as you saw in attachment 1 of the staff report, you can see how the costs have increased over time, and so we're tracking that, and then we're identifying what the funding gap is today. We'll continue to do that in coordination with our project sponsors as design changes, as the economy changes, as the bidding environment changes. We'll continue to update project cost estimates. But where we are now is at a juncture where we need to move forward with our final design, and we have a funding gap. So one of the ways that we've looked at addressing that is RTC staff put together an application to address that funding gap through the Consolidated Grant Program. That's being evaluated, and recommendations along with all the other projects from your local jurisdictions will be brought to the RTC in November. But there is a risk if we don't continue to move forward with final design this fall. And then also, we need to work with you to come up with a funding plan for construction so that we have some certainty as we move forward into the design that we'll be able to deliver these projects. Next slide. And this was a slide just to kind of give you an idea. People have asked us what portion of fundings have been going to different parts of the county and the city, and portions of to the region and how they've been distributed. So you can see the majority of the funds to date have been distributed to the city and county of Santa Cruz. And we have had also a significant portion are focused on corridor maintenance, which is really important for maintaining our asset. There's some funding has been dedicated to the city of Watsonville as well. As you know, we're moving forward using the project concept report on some alignment development for the trails in and around the city of Watsonville, and then also the regional portion of the North Coast Trail that's under development. Next slide. Oh, I think that's it. Thank you. Happy to take any questions.
So I'm going to start at it. So how much is in the consolidated grant program?
How much is requested for 8 through
well, first, how much is in that pot?
I'll take that question. It's about $15 million total.
15 million, and how much is going to be requested from?
8.2.
So that leaves, requesting half that would normally go to local roads and infrastructure.
Historically, in recent history, we've seen the consolidated grant program primarily distributed to local jurisdictions. That's really been since Measure D was passed in 2016. Prior to that, there was a significant amount of portion of the funding through the consolidated grant program that went to regional projects, but that was a bit relieved when Measure D was adopted, and some of that financial burden was transferred to Measure D. So in recent years, the consolidated grant program has primarily gone to local streets and roads with some funding for regional projects.
But like I said, thank you for the report. Short and sweet and to the point. Thank you. Yes, I really liked it. But another question for me was, so when will we know if the city of Santa Cruz gets to 20 million?
My understanding is that those grant awards are in December.
So short term. So that's a good thing. Commissioner Schifrin.
Thank you. I have a number of questions. A few anyway. First, about the need for the final design. You said that there was a risk if the commission doesn't move forward with final design. Doesn't it mean how can we build the project if we don't have a final design? I mean, see, it seems to me, is it really just a risk or is it really killing the projects? I mean, if they're not designed, they can't be built, no matter what they are. So am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, you need a final design to move forward to future phases of the project.
So the decision that the commission makes in November is going to be very critical in terms of whether these projects stay alive or not, with the potential of ultimately being built. The other question I want to talk about really is the underlying assumptions in the staff report. As I understand it, and please correct me, the CTC really, assuming that the commission is not able to come up with the remaining funds to build the projects as approved, the CTC has three choices. They can take the money back, because we can't do the project as we proposed. They can reduce the amount of funding based on what we can do, the proportional one, which is pretty much what your analysis, if I am correct about it, or they could agree to give the commission the grant or the grants for the full 8 through 11, but recognize that they're insufficient to build it all the way and just let the commission build it as far as we can. And I asked county staff how far that could be. In other words, if we just used if the CTC was willing to allow the RTC to keep the grants and build the trail as far as it could be built, how far could it be built? And my understanding is that for an additional $4 million, it could be built to 47th Street. So much of the trail could be built, not really, probably in much of the city of Capitola, which doesn't seem wildly enthusiastic for the project anyway, if the CTC is willing to let the commission keep the full grant and just reduce the scope of the project. Am I understanding that correctly?
Doing the quick math in my head, it doesn't seem unreasonable that we may be able to extend it all the way to 47th should the CTC not make any changes to the funding or the federal government not make any changes to our funding.
Okay, thank you.
That's what you were thinking of.
It seems to me that that option hasn't really been before us, but it's all going to come down to what the CTC is willing to do. And as Commissioner Keeley mentioned before, following up with the CTC really seems to be the critical next step that we should really find out. What are they likely to do? Will they take it all back? Will they take proportionally back? Or will they really let us build what we can build given the reality of the cost increases? So anyway, those are my questions, and stuck in a few comments as well.
Schifrin, you are correct in that staff has not presented that information because in our conversations with CTC staff, we've been told that it's, a proportional reduction. So that's what we're showing today. We do plan, obviously it's a negotiation, so we're going to hope to obviously negotiate as much as we can in our favor to save these grants. But that was kind of I just want to manage expectations that might not be possible, but we will try our best to negotiate.
And I'm not being critical of staff. I think based on what they've learned from the CTC staff isn't the CTC. And the commission here has options for trying to alter that sort of staff sense. And I think this information is useful, but I think there are other options.
And but we still, under that scenario that you talked about, Commissioner Schifrin, we still need $5 million?
I'm sorry, what?
Did I understand that correctly? Under your assumption, we still need $5 million?
We need $4 million.
$4 million, I'm sorry.
And my understanding is that does not assume using any Measure D money.
Got it. And
because I think, let me just say, I think it's critical that we not take any decision that would, eliminate or even reduce the amount of money that we've set aside for the segments going to Watsonville.
And is that assumption with also the federal grant being on board?
Yes, it would assume that there is still maintaining the 100%.
How does that happen? I mean, we can have a conversation about, CTC, but how does the federal?
We'd need to approach their staff and discuss scope changes with them in detail.
Thank you.
We've been cautious about our work with them because we were one of the few agencies that was awarded the RAISE grant program after the change of the administration.
Thank you. Any other commissioners? Oh, Commissioner Koenig, and then, Commissioner Clark.
Sure. Well, thank you, Chair, and thank you to staff for putting together this information. And mostly just want to kind of clarify some things. And there was a lot of information there, right? A lot of different options. And when we're looking at the overall scope of this project, how much do we have some idea how much we've spent or committed for the first 7 segments of this? Was that 53% that was on that chart for city and county?
Yes, so we've committed about $35 million to the city and county projects to date, and then also for the North County, it is additional approximately $10 million I've been referring to that as a regional projects.
Okay.
But it is within the county jurisdiction.
And I appreciate the thought in presenting 3 different options, A, B, and C there, but how do each of these options then affect subsequent segments 12 through 18 for our friends in South County? And I'm really curious to know which of these options, A, B, or C, has the potential to provide the most transportation equity to our friends in South County.
So option C would reserve the largest amount of Measure D active transportation balance that could be used on other segments, and it was about 21 million.
Okay. And options A and B essentially leave nothing for South County, if I'm
We anticipate they
understanding
would
this correctly.
we would exhaust Measure D revenues, yes.
Okay. On page 5 of your staff report, you reference an $8.2 million requested through the Consolidated Grant Program, right? Which Chair Montesino pointed out is half of that program. What's the contingency plan if neither that or the Measure D grant is awarded in November of 2025? And how might that affect the March 2027 Caltrans construction deadline?
Good question. So if we do not have funding to continue final design this fall, the final design work will be paused. We will not have sufficient funding to do that, and we will continue to seek additional funding from other outside sources. But as noted in my earlier slide about additional funding, there are project risks to that because you need to have the available funding through future funding cycles of programs. So we're waiting on that, as well as aligning it with that 2027 deadline. And really we are, this is a complex project, so trying to move forward through that final design in the time period we have right now is also already very tricky. It's tight. So to your point, it's a challenge, and we would pause final design and need to seek other funding and try to come up with different scheduling opportunities.
Great, thank you. Now, this goes to, I think, some of the questions that Commissioner Alternate Schifrin had here. The report assumes a proportional grant loss, for instance, 80 million in option C there. And it's my understanding that staff has not yet consulted with state or federal agencies on the likelihood of this, and we haven't, or what would be the likelihood that they would negotiate with us to retain more funding if we commit to future phases?
I would be speculating, but I would say we have consulted with our state funding partners, and they've given us the indication that it is a proportional reduction for trail miles. And as Commissioner Schifrin noted, that is a staff conversation, not a decision of the board of the California Transportation Commission. We would need to do further investigation to determine what kind of reduction would occur through our federal funding partners.
Thanks. And I appreciate when I'm asking you some of these more scenario-based, like what's the likelihood? I understand we're asking for speculation, but we're also relying on your expertise and sort of that gut level nuance that you have that we may not have here because you deal with those folks more regularly than we do. I have just a few more questions here if the rest of the commission here will indulge me. So in option C, the 1.5 miles to 7th Avenue, that minimizes our additional investment at 20 million, right? How might this, again, I'm asking a speculation question here, how might this impact the Safe Streets for All grant that the city of Santa Cruz is going for, since this doesn't extend out to 17th Avenue? And could it lead to full deprogramming of that funding?
It's unclear to us how that would impact the potential application, the potential award of the State Streets for All. I don't know if you want to add anything, Matt, but I think it's unclear at this point.
Hi, good morning, Matt Starkey, Transportation Manager, Santa Cruz. I think it's, I would make the assumption that we lose a significant amount of that funding or don't receive it at all. The Safe Streets for All program is really focused on crash reduction, and we've made the justification for that funding source by looking at all of the bicycle and pedestrian incidents that happen on adjacent corridors such as Bromer, East Cliff, Murray, for example. So if we're not achieving those safety benefits, I don't see why the federal partners would fully fund that project.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for that. And again, what do you suppose some of the environmental implications of phasing would be? In fact, so for example, would subsequent phasing require recertification of the EIR, or could they be built on the existing approvals?
I'd like to return to the commission to answer that question. I do believe we could rely on the existing environmental documents to phase the project. We've seen that in other locations, but I'd like to more thoroughly examine that and return to the commission with a full answer to that.
And again, this one is more speculation here, but I'm just trying to get a feel of things, sort of what kind of wiggle room do we have? How likely is it that state and federal funders will approve phasing in this, or are other scope changes without reducing or eliminating or deprogramming already committed funds?
Our expectation as staff is that the funding would be reduced proportionally based on the project phasing, and that we would have to commit to future programming, future subsequent phases. And we've seen that most recently, I think, project manager for the county of segment 1011, Rob Tidmore, had pointed out an example of where that's happened in San Luis Obispo most recently.
Okay. So if we pursue phasing, how long might it take to secure approvals from our funding agencies on scope changes? And could that process itself cause us to miss that 2027 construction deadline?
Do you have a time frame from them? I was going to say 3 to 6 months. Yeah, we don't have a time frame for that, but I would say approximately at least a minimum 3 months.
Okay, that's fair. Thanks. Is there a contingency plan if the March 2027 deadline for completed design and right-of-way certification is missed? And if so, what's the plan?
We do have the option to request extensions, both for final design allocation as well as for construction allocations. And so we would pursue those extensions. Those are, again, subject to approval by the California Transportation Commission. And they're, we've seen before, they are highly scrutinized.
Okay. And I'm not offering to volunteer any funding from my partners here, but I'm just out of curiosity, could the project sponsors, City of Santa Cruz and the county, could they commit additional ATP funds from their allotment to close the funding gaps if they wanted? Again, my friends, I'm not volunteering your funds here, but I'm just curious if that is a possibility that could be discussed.
Both the cities and the counties have their own funding sources. In part, they come from, one of those funding sources is the neighborhood portion of Measure D that's directly allocated to them. And the city of Santa Cruz in the past and is currently committing some of those funds to development of these projects. The county of Santa Cruz has committed $1.5 million to these projects as well through those neighborhood funds. They also have other funding sources that could be utilized for this effort, of course, subject to their council and board approvals.
Now, as I understand it, all of your hard work on the value engineering kind of got wiped out by cost and bid increases on this, right? Sort of a bummer. But are there still other opportunities available for value engineering, and could they help us close the gaps? For instance, what if, and just for clarification here of my question, everything that we've talked about here in each of these options, A, B, and C, assumes the ultimate trail, right? So what if in this we decided to go with interim trails, say on bridges? And how might that affect it? And is that a value engineering thing that we could do that would maybe save us some cash and provide funding for our South County friends to have a trail?
Thank you for that question. We've at a high level tried to look at where we might be able to provide kind of a hybrid solution or design, I would say, to development of the trail. The bridges are an obvious one, particularly given the questions recently around temporary use of the Murray Street Bridge, which has been of interest to the city of Santa Cruz particularly. When we looked at the cost, it really would not come close to closing that funding gap, though, by just eliminating the construction of new bicycle and pedestrian bridges or cantilevered bridges over our riparian areas and waterways. It would not close the funding gap.
But it would save some funds. It would save construction costs, right?
It would reduce the total cost, apologies, but it wouldn't close the funding gap that we have by a long ways.
Now, my last question, I swear,
And thank you for my
hold you
commissioners
to
for, yeah. Thank you for my commissioners for indulging here. I'm just trying to get an overall scope of this, and I really appreciate staff's work on this. So you had mentioned earlier that a 20% match was assumed on future grants, right? Is it possible that actually a greater local match would be required? 20% is, it's pretty generous on our half of this, right? But I think we've seen grants here, in one of the funding scenarios that we had asked for is give us some funding scenarios for up to a 50% local match. Are those possible, or do we feel like 20% is where it would potentially land?
That's a good question. It really depends on the funding source, but I think 20% is a fair minimum to assume. Our projects have been very competitive for a number of reasons, and one of them is project readiness, which requires a lot of investment up front. So that doesn't specifically answer your question in terms of match, but a lot of grant applications allow us to use that upfront cost to leverage it as part of the match. So then one way, that's a portion of your match. And then the higher the match, I've seen that your project is more competitive for funding. So yeah, I think 20% is a fair minimum to assume. But there are some grant programs that don't require any match, but there's a few and far between, and even then you still have to be competitive and receive the grant.
Yeah, let's find more of those, right? Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate your indulgence in my questions.
Yeah. Since you asked quite a few questions about alignment and funding, I just wanted to see if Matt or Rob had anything that I wanted to add that I missed. Anything? Okay. All right.
Commissioner Koenig.
Thank you, Chair. I guess for starters, I just wanted to kind of clarify and make sure we have some sort of basis of comparison for these different options. But how would you staff characterize sort of the option that Commissioner Schifrin suggested, that we hope that the CTC just let us keep all the money? I mean, like the risk on a low, medium, or high, is that like a high-risk option, a low-risk option?
I think we would start there to try to pursue that option. Based on what we've seen with other projects, I don't think that is likely, but it's unknown. And it's not just up to the staff, it's also up to the CTC board. So we're just basing on what we've seen with other projects and our conversations. But I think as Director Christensen mentioned, we'd like to see that as a starting point.
I mean, it sounds like, sure, maybe the commissioners themselves have a different take on staff. My experience, it is sort of hard to win a majority when you're fighting a staff recommendation. Helps to have the wind at your back, and we all, I think in every commission or agency, rely on our expert staff as just that, our experts who know more about the situation. So I'm, frankly not optimistic that we're just going to get to keep all the money. A prayer is not a plan. I think we should probably come up with a better idea. I mean, of the three options presented today, option A, B, and C, I mean, option A is not feasible. It says so, you said so yourself, we don't have enough money for it, so that's really not an option. Option B is close to feasible. I believe that still means infeasible. So really the only option that's feasible, at least with what we know today, would be option C, going to 7th Avenue. We consistently talk about this project, the rail trail, as connecting communities, as connecting our entire county, not just connecting the city of Santa Cruz. I mean, and yet under option C, you would basically see no trail throughout any of Live Oak, throughout any of Aptos, throughout any of Watsonville. So, I mean, this is a non-starter. These options certainly don't work for me and my district, and I'd be surprised if they work for many of my colleagues. Commissioner Clark was starting to tease this out, but is there another option? I mean, the elephant in the room here is the interim trail. How much money, and I hear that it doesn't make sense to do it in some places rather than others. I mean, that's because pretty much the whole corridor is built around the place where the tracks are. So if we were to rail bank, how effectively, how much trail could we build and how much would it cost?
Well, any type of change to the project design would also require approval of the scope, which we've talked about before, so I'm sure you're aware of. Based on the cost estimates that we've come up with as staff, provided by the city and county. We could, should the scope change be approved, we think we could potentially construct the interim trail for the length of segments 8 and 11, but I'd like to come back to you if that's the direction of the commission with further analysis of what that would look like.
And do we have any estimate? I mean, would there be any savings in that case? I mean, or does county staff have any more information on this? I mean, I know we're actually designing these segments, so.
Sure, I'm happy to defer to them.
Yeah, good morning, Chair, Commissioners. Rob Tipmore, Principal Planner and the Project Manager for segments 10, 11. So we, I think I mentioned this briefly last time at the September RTC meeting. We have cost estimates for the interim trail that are from 2023. The exercise in all of this analysis that we've been doing as staff, both at the RTC, the city, and the county, trying to figure out how much these various options are going to cost, we did our own sort of internal analysis of what the escalation and the cost increases for the interim trail would be based on the escalation numbers that we're seeing now and based on some of the larger bid item increases that we saw between 2023 and 2025 for the ultimate trail, mainly lighting and electrical, because that price went up significantly. So based on those sort of high-level estimates, we calculated that we could build the interim trail, again, assuming approval of scope change at the CTC, for $107 million between the two projects of the 4 segments, and we have $133 million roughly in funding. So there's potentially a $26 million budget left over.
Wow, that's significant. I mean, we're looking at, in a worst case scenario that we've already been presented, going to 7th Avenue and still needing to come up with an additional $20 million, or building everything and saving $25 million. I mean, yeah, I seem to remember that the Capitola Trestle, we'd estimated that refurbishing that for bikes and pedestrians would be $6-7 million. I mean, granted, that was a few years ago. We'd have to look at cost escalation as well, but that's maybe 10-12 million, something in that ballpark. So we could potentially complete that segment as well, and solve a lot of the issues that we're seeing in Capitola. I know I hear that staff saying it would require a scope change, and asking that requesting that at the CTC. This is kind of what I was getting at. How would we characterize the nature of that scope change in terms of risk and their likelihood to approve it versus building less and hoping to keep the same amount of money? Right? I mean, the other options are, what's the risk to losing the grants in a scope change where we build the interim trail?
I think that that's unknown at this time. I would, if we were directed by you to pursue that, we would have those discussions with the CTC staff and try to further assess the risk. But I think from staff perspective, anytime you have to go to a governing board and ask for a change in your scope, there's a risk. In terms of one of the things that we contemplated, and I think you were on the commission at this time when the applications were submitted, is that the applications were evaluated based on the benefits of a trail. So from staff's perspective, the project benefit of constructing the trail from the perspective of the CTC, we would still be able to argue that we would maintain the project benefits as defined in the grant application. That is our staff perspective. We would need to continue those conversations with CTC staff.
Right. Okay. So substantially, we'll be able to provide the same benefit, maybe even greater if we have savings and can extend the project in certain places. Sounds to me like that would be a lower risk than actually delivering significantly less benefit than we promised to in the first place. Finally, if we were to go with option C here, or something where we build less trail, would that potentially be like a black eye on our record, where if we go to apply for grant funding for future segments, like say in Aptos or Watsonville, that would be less likely to get the funding because we were not able to deliver on previous grant awards?
That's a great question. I think from my perspective, what the California Transportation Commission might be looking at is how we would fulfill our commitment first for the previously awarded segments, 8 and 11. I don't know that for certain, but it seems to me they would maybe at least want to see that we were committed to completing those previously awarded projects, and then before pursuing funding for additional projects. And yes, project delivery is something that was always looked at in our grant applications. They ask you if you've had agreements with state and federal funding agencies before, and have you been successful? So it is something that they evaluate typically in grant applications.
Okay, thank you. I guess just final comment is, the entire community, the entire county pays Measure D sales tax, right? And so the idea that, and we've promised that we'll build a trail throughout the entire county. I think the proposal, the idea that we would instead stop at 7th Avenue and say, hey, we're out of money for basically the next 20 years on the existing measure, sorry. I think that's untenable. I mean, I think that's a violation of our promise to voters, let alone the funding agencies, and just doesn't work. I mean, so really the only viable option that I see here is, the one that wasn't listed explicitly in the staff report, but that is the interim trail. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Martinez and then Commissioner Schiffman.
Thank you for the report and for all the work that you've done to show us where we are today. I want to agree with Commissioner Koenig in that all three options are not ideal, right? I think everybody in this room can agree that this isn't a pretty picture. It's my understanding that we aren't in a position to make a vote or a decision on this today, but this is an informative item, so it's really helpful to remember that. And thank you for bringing us to this point. What I'm seeing is that the report has come to us with a set of assumptions. You laid those out really clearly on one of those slides. And between Commissioner Alternate Schiffrin and Commissioner Koenig, you hear sort of poking at those assumptions in two different directions. And my hope as a commission is that if we're going to start exploring alternatives and challenges to the assumptions here, that we explore all of them, right? I don't really see a difference between asking the CTC for a scope change to keep all of the funding and deliver through 47th Street versus asking the CTC for a scope change for an interim trail. Those are both dramatically different changes to the projects that they've approved. And I think that if we're going to start pursuing alternatives, I'm hoping that this commission can agree that we'll pursue all of them with, full effort. And I really, as somebody who I've been a CEO of a very large publicly funded organization, so I understand what it means to apply for a grant, have grant requirements, and fight like heck to meet the grant requirements within the scope of which I have approved, right? I get that. And I also know now in my seat as a policymaker that there are decisions that happen at the state that sometimes are beyond the staff level. And my hope is, we have incredible representation here locally, at the state level, of leaders who are committed to seeing this project through. So my hope is that the commission can also agree to start working with our state legislative officials, our state representatives, to start exploring where the flexibility in those assumptions are, to get clarity on what's possible, so that way we can start making informed decisions as early as November and December about how we're going to proceed with this project. Because I think we all agree that our community wants a trail, we have committed to a trail, we need to make this happen. Getting to 7th Avenue or whatever is not sufficient, and leaving no money for the future is not sufficient. And so I'm hoping that we can start making progress by poking at those assumptions with our leaders. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schiffrin.
Yes, I just wanted to clarify one aspect of the sense that the interim trail would simply need a change in the scope by the CTC. Would it not also require abandonment of the freight easement and approval of that by the Surface Transportation Board, followed by a subsequent approval of the Surface Transportation Board of a rail banking proposal.
Thanks for bringing that up. Yes, I was focused on the funding side of things, but yes, there would be other regulatory steps that we would need to take that would allow for building the interim trail as you described.
And, my sense is there's a disagreement, and we've heard it a little bit this morning. Some people think, well, it'll be very easy to get Surface Transportation Board approval and all could happen quickly. Other people feel it could take years and years. There could be lawsuits. The current holders of the trail, the rail easement, feel that there's a case that can be made for freight on the line if the commission would only fix up the line so it could be used for freight. So I think that it's, from my perspective, not realistic to just sort of think, well, all we have to do is go to the CTC, and if they say it's okay, we're fine. I don't disagree that it would be cheaper if we could do it. But on the other hand, if we get stuck in a 2, 4, 5-year battle to get approval for adverse abandonment, assuming that there are votes on the commission to essentially abandon rail on the line, which I don't support. But that's one of the other consequences to, abandon the trail easement, and to go forward with the interim trail means realistically that there will never be rail on the line. And that's a decision that I think is a very significant one for the commission to take, especially given the vote on the last Measure D and the support for rail in the community, despite its cost. So I think it's important for the commission. I agree with Commissioner Martinez that we need to explore all the various options, but I think we have to explore them realistically. If there was consensus that building the interim trail was fine, then going to the Surface Transportation Board, getting their approval, assuming they could do it within a reasonable time frame without opposition, would be worth considering. Although I still think there are real questions about whether this community would really like to give up the possibility of having rail service on the line. But at this point, I think it just needs to be made clear that going forward with the interim trail does not simply mean scope change with the CTC. It means a protracted battle at the Surface Transportation Board with an uncertain outcome.
I got to get Commissioner Lenore, I think.
Wow, this is a tough discussion to hear and to agree to what's happening with not just the North County, but also South County. South County, I'd like to thank Commissioner Clark for bringing South County up and advocating for us, because I feel like South County has been left behind in some of this discussion. So I'd like to give a little bit of my thoughts to what I think right now. So when discussing transportation and equity, it's essential to recognize that every community deserves access to safe and healthy and efficient travel options. I think we can all agree that having a reliable rail system would be excellent, especially for those commuting from South County, and I commute from South County to Mid County and North County every day on the bus. However, I understand that currently building in rail is not feasible for the RTC, and it is important that we listen to what the community truly needs. It's not about leaving a legacy on what we're going to build here. It's about addressing the current needs and desires of our community. We need to find common ground and believe that starting with a trail is a great first step. while preserving the rail for development. It is a way to enhance our community connectivity, promote active transportation. I want to highlight that Watsonville deserves attention. South County, they need it too. It often feels like the focus is mainly on Santa Cruz and Capitola, where it's clear that they have their own plans. While that's important, we cannot overlook the needs of South County. We need to advocate for all areas equally, and that's a start with moving forward on projects that directly benefit our communities. Today, I would like to urge the RTC to expedite funding for building segments 17, 18, and 19 of our trail. Let's turn this reality for Watsonville and ensure that our community has a say on the process. And this is a really tough discussion. It's a lot of information to take in. But the reason I'm here is because I'm here to advocate for my South County and everybody. I love from Scotts Valley to Watsonville, but we've been left behind. So please, let's work together and find a better way to fund these 3 segments of the trail. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. And seeing no, Commissioner Jensen.
Yeah, thank you very much, and I appreciate your passionate speech, and I applaud you for expressing Watsonville's needs. With that, and not to undermine your speech, but I do have a couple about 5 questions that I'd like to just ask as a new commissioner. I get asked a lot of questions, and I don't have all the exact answers. One thing that I haven't heard a lot of discussion about since I've been attending meetings is if miraculously this whole project was funded, how the operation costs of this project runs. And I've heard the numbers like $40 million. I know it's a little bit out of our scope today, but what does that look like to the communities if this was completely funded just for operational costs of, I estimate, like $40 million? What would that look like?
Are you specifically asking about trail maintenance costs in terms of operating the trail once it's completed construction?
Yeah, rail trail or just trail. I mean, how does that look?
It's been a while since I crunched those numbers. So the last time we worked on that with the city and county, we looked at about $32,000 per mile for annually for maintenance of the trail. And so we've assumed that for future sections of the trail. However, it is not programmed as part of our Measure D. We do have funding agreements for the trail segments that are open to the public with the cities, just the cities, and we are entering into, we have an agreement with the county for the North Coast. So that's kind of a long answer, but yes, we have not fleshed out how long-term maintenance would be funded of the trail. And right now, some of that is funded through Measure D.
Just to clarify, Ms. Blakesley's answer was basically $32,000 per mile per year for the annual maintenance cost for the trail. That's what.
Thanks for clarifying.
Referring to.
Thank you. The next one, where do we have easements along the rail for just trail only, for trail purposes only?
We have provided a map back in February 2022 identifying locations where there are easements, where the RTC owns easements for rail on the rail right-of-way. The sections that we're speaking to today, 8 and 11, there are not easements that, and no additional rights would need to be purchased to construct a trail.
Okay. All right, I'll skip on to my next one. Could rail banking allow us to build the intra-trail without attaining additional right-of-way in these areas? And what would that long-term approach be?
So, okay, so for the interim trail, it would essentially likely result in the elimination of many right-of-way needs for the project. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean, so the interim trail would have less impact on what the needs are if the full rail trail was built.
Correct, correct.
What would the financial impacts and benefits be if we see an interim trail built? And as such, what right-way acquisitions or approach to mitigation, such as the mobile homes, parks, and environmental impacts be on phasing?
Do you want me to generally answer? Just generally speaking, the ultimate trail, just to clarify, the footprint is larger because you're trying to squeeze the trail next to the rail line. If you were to utilize the rail corridor itself, it would be a much smaller footprint, which would result in less environmental impacts. It would result in less right-of-way needs. And then it would largely remove, the direct conflict with some of the encroachments, illegal encroachments we have on the RTC right-of-way. But it would not, result in us not pursuing the resolution of those encroachments because they still, encroachments still remain on our line and our right-of-way, and it is our policy to remove them. It would just be potentially, we would have more time to do it, potentially. We would have more flexibility because we wouldn't be up against these funding deadlines, because we do need, currently with the ultimate trail, we need those encroachments removed in order to secure the right-of-way to build the improvements, because there are some direct conflicts out there.
Okay, so just recap my understanding is, so on the interim trail, if it was done where we have conflicts on, like let's just say Castle Mobile Home Estates or Blue and Gold, as the stance is on the RTC to correct those can be corrected in a longer term process other than immediately because of the direct time frame of what the project is?
We could have more flexibility from a timeline standpoint. And I apologize, we're not super prepared to answer very detailed questions about, the interim trail and rail banking, because we are preparing for bringing more information back to the commission later this year as directed at the last RTC meeting.
Yeah, I apologize for the pointed questions, just mostly about context, just a question I get asked by my constituents and stuff like that on the importance of this matter on both what it looks like for the ultimate and interim trail. So that's all the questions I have today. Thank you.
Thank you. And seeing Commissioner Coggins?
So I just had one more brief question. So, I mean, the most immediate thing is this, at our next meeting, I assume we're going to be asked to allocate another $8.5 million or so for design work for the trail. How does that situation look, if we were to ultimately pursue an interim trail option? I mean, do we still need the same amount for design work? I understand, obviously, you were talking about a lot less retaining walls, a lot less bridges in that case, so perhaps the design work is less expensive. What's the timing on, when that would be needed? Can you share any more information?
We would anticipate that the design cost would be less, but we have not come up with a plan to cost estimate specifically for that or a time frame, but you could direct us to do that and we could return with that information.
And could the additional design needs be paid for out of savings, that the $25 million or so in savings that we potentially see, or because of the way the grant's structured with only so much for, the design phase of the project, is that not possible and we still have to come up with local money for it one way or another?
RTC could direct some of the Measure D that's previously programmed in future years for construction to design of an alternative design for the project, including the interim trail.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeSerpa.
Thank you. So thank you to my fellow commissioners. Most of my questions have been answered, but just for the public's sake, I do want to cover one more thing. So in scenarios A, B, and C, the money that would come from Measure D, we would bond against the future earnings of Measure D, is that correct?
Yes, future revenues of Measure D. Active transportation category specifically.
And that particular, some of that money is used now for a competitive grant program, right, where all the different jurisdictions compete for a piece of that? No.
No, that's a really good question. So we're talking about two different funding pots, and we're bringing them both to the commission next month, so I could see how there could potentially be some confusion. But the Measure D Regional Active Transportation Plan category is separate from the Consolidated Grant Program. And the Consolidated Grant Program is discretionary money that comes to the RTC from a variety of sources, and local sponsors have submitted applications for that. Local jurisdictions also receive a direct allocation of Measure D, and we call it the neighborhood category. That's separate from the Measure D active transportation category.
But it sounded to me like the RTC was putting in a grant, right, for $8 million.
Thank you for clarifying.
Also competing against local jurisdictions for a piece of that small pie.
That's correct.
For the projects, yeah. So I guess, and I've raised this concern before, but, 50% of the population in this county lives in the unincorporated areas. I cannot tell you how many constituent complaints I get on a daily basis about the fact that their roads are in very, very poor condition. When will they be resurfaced, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know what to say to these people anymore. I've got constituents waiting for a road that hasn't been resurfaced in more than 60 years. My own road has 8 storm-related areas of concern, and, just multiple complaints. And it's not just my district, it's across the county. So I just want to bring that forward again, that our surface roads in our county need repair, and to be pitted against each other, to be pitted against the city of Scotts Valley and Capitola and Santa Cruz to, get a very small allocation is difficult. So I look forward to hearing more in the upcoming months about option 4, which actually isn't in today's packet, and that would be building the interim trail, using rail banking to preserve the rail line, and what that might afford us. It sounds to me like we have enough money to complete potentially the entire trail down to Watsonville if we went in that direction. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Just one other comment, not a question. This whole, I think we absolutely need an option 4 here. But here's where it gives me heartburn, is we built a very nice trail in North County. It's great, it's good. And it really bothers me that now what we're looking at for South County is something less than what we built in North County. South County deserves every bit as nice a trail, whatever option we go with, and however we can preserve money to do that and deliver that, I think we owe it through to all of our South County friends and through the rest of the county areas as well, including the city of Watsonville. And so that's an option that I would like to see included there in an option number 4. And, wherever we need to make sacrifices to do that, I think we need to. Much like my other commissioners have mentioned, I'm not doing cartwheels over the fact that, the RTC is competing against other cities for the Consolidated Grant Program, and up to half of that, because I'm very aware of the need for our own construction projects and our own, individual city needs in there as well. And so I'm not comfortable with us competing for that, because we've overspent on what we've built so far. That gives me a great deal of heartburn. And so I just hope that as we consider options going forward, that we consider not impacting funding for cities, for our own construction, our own roadway projects, our own active transportation that's going on. And number 2, we consider building every bit as nice a trail for our South County friends as what we've built in North County.
Thank you. I think Commissioner Vanessa Quiroz-Carter had her hand up.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to say thank you to staff for presenting us with these options. One thing that gives me heartburn is when people who don't live in South County and don't work in South County and don't commute sit here and talk about what we should do. It would really be great if people could stay in their own lanes and their own municipalities and not try to tell Watsonville what to do. That's why we're in the situation that we're in, is because people who don't live here and don't work here and don't ever spend time here try to tell us what to do in our municipality. So I would just like to say that. And also, we're not a monolith, so people are going to have differing opinions, and I really don't appreciate people speaking for me. So I don't speak for Capitola or Santa Cruz or any other jurisdiction other than my own. Thank you again to staff. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Schiffern. And then we're going to go out to the public.
Just very briefly, I think the whole commission has been supportive of going forward with South County trails. It is a problem that they have not been pursued, but on the other hand, we don't even know what they look like. We're still waiting to get the report from the rail study that's going to outline what it is, what the trails could be. And I think that is the next priority. The projects that were done and the grants that were approved were for the part of the county where most of the population was. That was the mid-county. And there's no question, and this commission has supported the South County projects when they were brought before the commission. And I think the commission as a whole has been very supportive of moving forward with the segments 7 through 18, once we know what those segments are. And I totally agree that money has been set aside in Measure D and should be set aside in order to try to make those, do what we can to make those segments come to construction. So I think it's sort of false to make it seem like somehow North County is trying to victimize South County and we don't really care about them. I think it's been a process of trying to figure out what are the costs of doing the segments in South County. How can we work with how can the commission work with the South County jurisdiction, the city of Watsonville, to make those projects move forward? Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to go out to the public. Would like the public to weigh in this item at the agenda? If you're in chambers, please line up. And can you please keep the comments to the whole commission?
Okay, Brian with Trail Now. So let me comment. Exactly what Jerry's saying. The legal challenges are far exceed any challenges of rail banking. So let's recognize that. So in your analysis, we've been speaking to the CTC. They grade you on the impact, how much this value is. So Mr. Schiffner's idea of, oh, can't we just keep the money? It's not going to happen. They're going to pull the money because it doesn't meet the qualification requirements. It's simple as that. The adjacent property owners are going to hold up our trail. And then finally, Watsonville, you've been getting screwed, and they're going to borrow more money, and they're going to take your money, and you guys voted not to allow this anymore. And if you keep listening to the North County representative there, you're going to keep losing out. This is what's happening. These guys have been controlling the money. 70% of the active transportation money has gone to them, and they want to take more of your money. Let's do measure option D, rail bank it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners and staff. My name is Lonnie Faulkner with Equity Transit. I'd like to impress on you, Commission, that rail banking is a rabbit hole of uncertainty which is out of the hands of the California Transportation Commission. There is no guarantee. And the federal STB, there's no guarantee they'll approve it, and a lot of reasons that they will not. It could take 3 years or more to be denied, which means we lose the grant funds that we now have and increase costs and the additional costs that we are now looking at. We prefer option A or B, giving us the greatest length of the the ADA-compliant trail through Live Oak, one of the most populated areas of the county with the highest percentage of community members with disabilities, according to the American Community Survey and Shared Adventures. Also consider going from 7th to 47th. During the Great Depression, some of our longest-lasting, well-built projects were funded and financed and still stand today. Financing is typical. Regardless of the choice, preserve the rail, keep the trail adjacent to the rail. Thank you so much.
I am Rosemary Sarka. I am associated with Roaring Camp Railroads. I would urge the commission to hold your opinions of rail banking for the description that your council will give you toward the end of this year. Rail banking is very arcane. It's difficult to understand. It was explored several years ago and found to be infeasible. I know that there will be opposition. And opposition means time wasted. We have already found that by delay, prices increase. I suggest that we wait for a good description of rail banking and an understanding. I know it's difficult to understand. So hold on to thinking that this is a solution until we get that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners and Chair Montesino. Matt Farrell speaking on behalf of Friends of the Rail Trail. We encourage the Commission to accept the three options outlined. They present a viable strategy to move forward, and I think we also could see additional good news if we were able to receive funding from the Safe Streets for All grant, which would, for options A and B, reduce the cost if it was fully funded by $20.5 million. We also support prioritizing funding for segments 17 through 20 in the city of Watsonville. We believe that there's progress being made on those segments, and we should continue to support them. Finally, we support funding the design services amendment in November.
I'm Paula Bradley. Thank you to the RTC and staff for all the great work that you do. It's very distressing to hear about these crazy high cost estimates for the project. I would like to ask you to please include in the cost estimates for comparison the cost of congestion to public health, the environment, and the economy. There's a huge cost to not improving transportation and public transportation. I would also like to say if in all these cost charts and diagrams and so on, include a time frame for these delays, all these delays for unanticipated costs, inflation, litigation. All these costs are high for every delay. At the last meeting for Capitola, for example, a 2-week delay in the project was $2 million. So does that mean just for that one item? It's been a month now, so is it $4 million? Thank you.
Good morning. I want to acknowledge this is a kind of a dismal moment for construction costs, as you know, they're rising faster than funding. And I really appreciate that staff are doing their best to explore the various ways to adapt and still deliver a project. I'm excited that some of the commissioners are offering some support to find creative solutions, sources of funds. You know, hard times require some hard work, and we need to be thinking differently. I appreciate Mayor Keeley's offer to connect with Carl Gardino at the CTC. As Commissioner Martinez has suggested, you know, reaching out to state legislators and senators to ask for special allocations to fill the funding gap. Who among you can reach out to Representative Panetta so that some of these earmarks actually get granted? You know, I'm hearing the staff's asking, but they're not being granted. You know, we need to put some pressure on him, and the community stands ready to support you. Please let us know if you need letters or emails to support these special funding requests. We need to be thinking creatively and doing some new things in this new time. Thank you.
Thank you.
members of the commission, Ilya Balayich, resident of Watsonville. I wanted to offer a philosophical input. One of the representatives for the city of Watsonville, Vanessa Quiroz Carter, gave you a recital. I think I know where she's coming from, but I'm dismayed at what she conveyed to you, and that was the indignation at receiving input from the relative other policymakers in the county. As I mentioned in the oral communications, Santa Cruz County is the second smallest county in land area in the state. It's a small county. We're all connected. All of the policy leaders, the cities, the unincorporated areas are going to be exchanging viewpoints in a rough manner of speaking, telling each other what they have to do. We're going to have to, because we're all constrained and confined with an increasingly common problem. And that's the perspective I wanted to convey to you as a regular citizen of the city. Thank you.
Thank you.
Lowell Hurst here, resident of the 2nd District, Mr. Serpa's district, but living in Watsonville. You know, you've had a lot to study. You have a lot more to study. But time is money, and you spend a lot of money. And I'm sorry that it's not enough and it's too short. So at this point, you need to, figure out where we're going to be going in the future. And clearly, rail banking is not an immediate option and may not be an option at all, but it would certainly take a lot of time. So in the meantime, I think you should take the money that's allocated for actual rail and try and bring the rail up to a usable, to the level of good repair. This will help you facilitate future trail and continuous trail maintenance and building. And so use the rail.
Thank you.
Build the trail.
See, no one else in chambers going to go online?
Joanna Lighthill.
Hi, Commissioners. Thank you for considering comments. I heard the commissioners mention something about what the CTC's input might be, and I wanted to share some information from the past. Before Sarah Christensen was the executive director, we had the interim director, Mitch Weiss, who happened to be the CTC's executive director. And at the April 18th, 2024 meeting, the RTC meeting, he explained that scope changes would have a significant impact and that the CTC, quote, the CTC awarded the funding to this project on certain assumed benefits. If we were to cut the length of the trail in half, it would obviously have much fewer benefits. And my personal opinion, I think it would be unlikely to get approved by CTC, end quote. Later, he added, failure to deliver the project is problematic and affects how we're viewed. Thank you.
Thank you.
David Dean.
Yes, thank you. I would like to remind commissioners that well over a decade ago, we purchased this rail line with the implicit requirement of using it for rail. This talk of rail banking makes no sense. Before I moved to Santa Cruz, I lived in the Washington, D.C. metro area where Maryland used rail banking to build a trail. That was an abysmal failure. It took decades of litigation to build their rail line that they're building now, and they had to require new right-of-way in order to build their rail. You're just going to make things much more expensive in the long run by using rail banking. Do not consider this.
Thank you.
Michael Saint.
All right. Thank you, commissioners. Everything seems to be
thrown out there for ideas and stuff like that, but may I suggest possibly combining a PRT system with a trail? It could be the interim trail for expense needs. PRT needs only 7 feet of right-of-way for a PRT system, freeing up the amount of right-of-way for a better trail. That may even eliminate the rail banking issue. The goal is to give all communities access to a rail and passenger service. A PRT relieves you of needing funding, Fed or state funding. PRT can solve a lot of funding issues and actually reduce congestion on Highway 1 and offer nonstop service. There needs to be a trail and a passenger service in the county. The trail doesn't always, or the passenger service doesn't need to just go north-south. It needs to go east-west, and a PRT can accomplish all of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bernard.
Yeah, good morning, Chair and the Commissioners. Bernie Gomez with Milpa. And, you know, I want to say this. I've been trying to learn about RTC, about this project. I know it's been going on for a while, but personally, you know, I end up with more questions, you know, confused sometimes, you know, Googling terminology and stuff. But one thing that I'm certain, and I've heard the commentary right now, is that South County has always been questioned in regards to, or it's always been questioned in regards to its infrastructure and to developing any type of infrastructure. I appreciate that comment about North County just having a new trail, beautiful. You know, I drive past it, you know, and stuff like that. But South County deserves that same treatment, you know, with no questions. No, like a good leader is someone that's going to look at how do we provide that in the most vulnerable community. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'm going to close off.
We have one more speaker.
One more.
Jean Brocklebank.
One more.
Oh, you have a few.
Good morning, Commission and staff. I would like to express appreciation for RTC staff this morning who have brought such good information to this informational agenda item. I am more informed now, and I know the Commission is more informed now. I would also like to, and so I really appreciate RTC staff's hard work on behalf of the Commission and the public. I would also like to express appreciation for comments from several of the commissioners who seem to have gotten it, specifically Commissioner Jensen, Clark, DeSherpa, and Koenig. And for the gentleman's name escapes me. I think he's from the Metro. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Barry Scott.
Yeah, thank you. I want to express to the commissioners what I think is a very important point, which is the $4.3 billion plan applies to a train system and details that are grossly oversized for our needs. The 7 trains are described on page 170 that have top speeds of 87 miles per hour, 110 miles per hour, 125 miles per hour. One of the vehicles is the double-decker Charger that runs in San Diego County. What has never been studied and what needs to be studied is light rail and some kind of a streetcar plan. At every turn, the decisions that were made toward completing this report favored the most expensive solutions, straightening out track to go faster, building flyover boardwalk rail lines, and just so much. So I think the most important thing to do is to back up and look at other solutions. Thanks.
Thank you. With that, is that it?
One more.
One more.
Cammie.
Hi.
Good. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Great, thank you. I want to thank the commissioners and staff. I know that we don't always see eye to eye, and I've been very vocal on a lot of things. I want to make it clear that, you know, I'm not for the train or the trail. I'm advocating for our senior citizens and housing in the low-income area that's affected in the mobile home communities that we live in. And I appreciate so much Jerry Jensen, Kim DeSerpa, Manu Koenig, and Steve Clark, even way up there in the North County, for supporting us and trying to see what is going to be the viable solution for us. You know, the options before you, I agree that we need to put in option 4 that needs to be considered. You know, rail banking, does it really need to occur if we just go over the track and not actually remove the track? I think that's questions that need to be answered. I also believe that we need to give our South County friends the absolute same stuff that we're getting everywhere else, just like the housing encroachments. They need to be looked at completely and fairly. So I thank you, everybody, for that, and please take that into consideration. Thank you very much, and have a great day.
Thank you. That it?
We have no more speakers.
All right, I'm going to close that up, and before I allow Commissioner, I'm going to, make some comments. You know, these are, where reality where we stand, and we're going to have to make difficult choices in the upcoming months. But one of the things that I really want to highlight is, the Consolidated Grant Program. Ask for $1 million. That's a no-starter for me, because our local roads and just the city of Watsonville are in shambles, and we need we need help, and this is one grant opportunity through the county that we get, because it would tell us, like, not only you're not getting a trail, now you're not getting any local roads. So that's a double slap to me, So it's disconcerting, but like I said, we will have difficult decisions in the coming months, and to address the concern that has been at the forefront of Measure D discussion, the inequitous distribution of investment across the county, particularly when it comes to the coastal rail trail. We continue to see a partner where resources are disappropriately directed at rail trail projects in North and Mid-County projects. That, while important, is not serve the full breadth of the community. And I'll tell you, it's not all of our fault. It's also our fault. Because I also want to take responsibility as a community, as elected officials, as staff at the city. We haven't advocated for ourselves enough. And I do also want to, acknowledge that for years. But like I said, we're at this stage now. So I want to urge the Commission to take a hard look at how we're allocating funding for and prioritizing investments that reflect the needs of our entire region, not just, North County. So as duly noted, like I said, we're going to have difficult decisions in the upcoming months, and all of these are local roads, trails, and how we move in the future. But whatever we decide to accept the thing moving forward, we do need to get some information. I mean, we're getting a presentation in the future about rail banking, but I also would like to see information about, because it's, both sides, to me, I'll tell you personally, I've told a few people, personally, they're extremes. We want the full thing or rail banking. To me, like I said, we gotta get, and everybody's assumptions, everybody's sides. We heard them today. I'm searching for facts, and whether we do, rail banking, or we're going to get a presentation, but also the cost factor is like, we got a few nitbits of, of if we just did, interim trail, what the cost, but I like to see it in, writing. And to see, so we can show the community what that is. because we already got some, some estimates now on some options in the future, and we're gonna have to make hard decisions. But I like to get that information. So, in my comments there for right now, Commissioner
Actually, we
Schifrin.
need more information, and I'd like to make a motion that the commission take the following actions. What do you want? Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you. I agree that we need more information. I move that the commission take the following actions. One, establish a subcommittee to meet with CTC member or members to discuss funding options for the grants. The subcommittee to include the chair, Commissioner Keeley, and Commissioner Koenig, if he wants to do it. Two, that we direct staff to return in November with cost estimates for preparing the final design for both the interim trail and the ultimate trail. And three, that we direct staff to return in November with details on the process for constructing segments 13 through 18. That's my motion.
Yeah, I'd second that. Could you just repeat the date for the second item there, which was?
November.
November.
I'm sorry. I did say November, sorry.
Does that give you enough time? That's all I'm worried.
We will do our best, as we always do. Our team is very impressive. We only had about 3 weeks to pull this information together. So as you know, this is an evolving issue. We'll bring what we can. And then just one question. So details for the process of constructing segments 13 through 18. For those of you who are not totally in the weeds about, where those trails exist, segment 13 begins at the Rio Del Mar overcrossing, and segment 18 actually ends at where the rail crosses Walker Street. And then segment 19 is along Walker Street, and segment 20 finally would connect to Pajaro and the future Pajaro station. So just wanted to provide that context.
Well,
There's
let
20
me
segments
ask
of rail
the
trail.
South County representatives, should it be 13 through 20? Should it be 14 through 18? You tell me the sections that it should be. I think we need to know specifically what needs to happen.
I think 20, because I know, our partners in Monterey already, got some grant funding to work on, their station just, south of the.
So if it's okay with the second, I amend the motion to.
I'll second the second.
Include 13 through 20.
Second time.
So with that, any other comments? See none, can I get a roll call?
Commissioner Jensen?
Aye.
Commissioner Keeley? Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Montesino?
Yes.
Commission Alternate Schifrin?
Aye.
Commissioner DeSerpa?
Aye.
Commissioner Koenig?
Aye.
Commissioner Martinez?
Aye.
Commissioner Quitos Carter? Commissioner Quitos Carter?
She's muted.
I think she's talking to someone else.
Commissioner Quitos Carter, we're taking a vote on the motion.
I'm sorry?
We're
Can you
taking the
repeat the
vote on
motion,
the
please?
motion.
Can the motion be repeated, please?
That the commission take the following actions: establish a subcommittee to meet with CTC member or members to discuss funding options for the 8 through 11 grants. The subcommittee to include the chair, Commissioner Keeley, and Commissioner Koenig. 2, to direct staff to return in November with a cost estimate for preparing final design for the interim as well as the ultimate trail. And 3, direct staff to return in November with details on the process for constructing segments 13 through 20.
Thank you for repeating that. Aye.
Commissioner Leonor?
Yes.
That passes unanimously.
So with that, thank you. It was a good discussion, a lot of thoroughness, and very respectful on our end. Thank you. With that, lost my my place, but I think we're due to hear from
Correct.
you know,
We have one
closed
item
session.
in closed session this morning. It's conference with labor negotiators regarding the core bargaining unit.
Anybody from the public like to weigh in this closed session item of the agenda? Seeing nobody in chambers, anybody online?
We do not have anyone online.
Thank you.
Mr.
And-
Mattis, do we expect a report out?
We do not.
Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll adjourn to our next scheduled meeting next month. Thank you.